Alright, so this is going to be a reply to Brian of Tarth. They're on my YouTube page. Again, my page is just like personal stuff, so it's not really meant for like monetization, or I'm not trying to like build a huge community or anything. But if you want to connect, that's cool. No problem there. I think that I'm very much about the community trying to figure this out. I think that's sort of a part of why Justin did it. And speaking of Justin, I'm going to share with you his email response back to me. I want to say before I show that I think it's really cool. Excuse me, that he's doing that. Like, he's replying to people. Like I mentioned in the past, we took the boys out to search for forest finch treasure. Like one time to Salida, Colorado. We were, obviously, we had believed, that's another thing, that we had believed some of the forum talk, and that was on like Nigel's page, Dale's page, and other people. Like, forests was so, I guess you'd say, vague, and that it could have just been really anywhere. That's why a lot of us still don't necessarily believe the 9 Mile Hole story, but at the same time, there's a lot of evidence that it was a 9 Mile Hole, so we're just going to have to leave it at that. If that's what they say it was, that's where it was. But one thing that Forrest, in my opinion, did wrong was he was very selective with like who he talked to back. Unless you were intriguing to him or like whatever, he kind of played favorites, I guess is the best way to put it. And that's okay. I mean, that's his personality. But one thing that I'll give Justin credit about is that he seems to be very responsive to people that are genuine, that are genuinely sending him, either A, questions, or B, like myself, I just told him, hey, you got me. I didn't find it, but I had a good time. And then I commented on his book. I did enjoy the book, actually. Having read it a couple times now, just because. And also, just kind of, I've actually ran into people through the Discord situation that are kind of crazy. Like, one guy actually thinks that I'm Justin or the steward. Like, he's emailing me and texting me all the time. And, no. Alas, this is a response to Brian of Tarth. He was like asking me exactly to be a little more, and I realized that I wasn't very direct with my solve whenever I was talking about it. So I'm going to go step by step how I came up with the solve, and we'll kind of go from there. But before I do that, I'm going to share Justin's email to me, because it may, as always, any communication might actually have a clue. And so if you're out there hunting, I want to share it with you. So he says, "Hi Chad, thank you for sharing your treasure hunting journey. Spending 17 days in the woods across 3 separate trips shows a real dedication to the adventure." Yeah, it did. That's a significant investment of time and energy, and I hope those days brought you memorable experiences, regardless of the outcome. And so the response to that is, for me personally, about 6,000 into it. But I definitely needed the time away, out into nature, and so I absolutely found the investment more for myself than just finding the treasure. My wife and I we'd love to find the treasure, but we also are people of means, and so finding it for myself was more of like, hey, I just want to go rehide it type thing. Obviously keep some of it just because you found it. But with that said, I'm definitely going to be doing my own hunt one of these days with things that I have that are valuable, that I think that people would really like, and I'm looking forward to that. But I'm not going to hide anything until after Justin's is found. There's just too many, in my opinion, there's too many hunts going on right now. I'm glad there are. You have Michael's, and then you have Justin's, and then you have, JCB's, of course. But again, to Justin's credit, here he is responding as I continue here. "I understand how life and responsibilities eventually call us back from these pursuits." Obviously, I told him that I can't hunt for it hardly anymore because of what's ahead of us. "The balance between adventure and our everyday duties is something we all have to navigate." That's right. "You're right," and I found this to be very interesting. He said, "You're right, and that when the treasure is eventually found, I plan to share the location. It will be interesting for everyone to see how their interpretations compared to the intended path." I thought that was a very interesting sentence. He says, "I appreciate your kind words about the book. Creating something that people enjoy reading beyond just serving as a vessel for clues was important to me. Thank you also for your thoughtful concern about safety. While the vast majority of treasure hunters are wonderful, enthusiastic people who approach the hunt with the right spirit, I take reasonable precautions, which you should. Wishing you all the best in your future adventures. Warmly, Justin. So again, really cool that he emailed me back there with a not just some form email either. It's an actual. He paid attention to what I had emailed him, so I like that. Even if he's using AI to help him, that's fine. It's intent, and but I thought that this sentence, it will be interesting for everyone to see how their interpretations compared to the intended path. So to me, that means something. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. I don't know. So I want to share that. And getting back to Mr. Brian of Tarth and how I came up with what I came up. So I'm going to show, here's Google Earth. We'll start here, okay? And where I actually came to, I don't have the picture of it right here, but where I actually came up with, it was possibly here in, beyond 9 Mile Hole, is first and foremost, when he started, in the poem, he says in the poem that round the bend past the hole. So I'm seeing this as an ode to Forrest Fenn. And that ode is also referenced within his acknowledgments, right, in the book, okay? And then on his book, so as I shared in this other one, he is standing in a meadow that is in Yellowstone right here. This meadow is in Yellowstone, okay? It's actually right here. That meadow is right here. Where he's standing somewhere inside this meadow. I believe, I got myself in a picture. See, this is the lake that he talks about in the book, because the path back there is right here. And the little trekking path is right here. He talks about it's just nothing but mosquitoes and trees in his book, which is pretty funny. But he's standing somewhere in this meadow, and he's looking back this way. But in the photo, he is chopped off, like he's cut the photo. So yes, the angle, you can tell that the camera is on the ground here, and it's looking up at him. So you can't necessarily tell exactly where he's looking, but he is definitely looking. When you're here in this meadow, and you're looking this way, right, he's chopped this off. This part is chopped off. All you see is just the mountains in the background. And then there's like this part right here, this part, see this hill that's right here? That hill, I've been here, so I know what's going on. That hill is here. Like, he's in this meadow somewhere, and that tree is like right in here somewhere. So he's literally standing, basically, it's either this tree or it's that tree that he's standing at and looking. And when you're looking back, you can kind of tell, like you see the tree lines along the other ways, that's these trees. But you can't really tell it, you know what I'm saying, unless you're there. The Google Earth doesn't necessarily do all that well. Again, it can either be this one or this one. It's one of these two. And they're exactly shaped. They're shaped exactly like this in real life. Where, like, they're cut right here. And you can kind of see beyond him is the road. But you don't know that until you're standing here, because this kind of falls off. Where he's standing at, this falls off down to the river, the gradient wise. And so it kind of, it's like, when you hold a fish close to the picture and you make the fish look bigger than it really is. You know what I mean? It's sort of that sort of perception. But again, he's chopped off these mountains that are in the distance, right? He's standing here and he's looking back. And the way that he's looking, because you can tell that he is south in east of this formation. And he's looking back northwest. So you can see he's looking back northwest. He's just chopped off so you can't see it. And then the next photo in his book was the acknowledgments. And then the next photo was Finn's Rock with the treasure right there, right? So in my opinion, like, I didn't know where that tree was. Like, I'd come in here, I'd done all the Google stuff to try to find the thing. But I knew that I'm pretty much, really even to see this, you need to be there. But to find this photo, to find where he's at, you got to be there, right? You have to physically be there in order to see it. So I knew that I had to get out, and but I knew that whenever I was doing my little Google search, even seeing it, he was either at first I thought he might be in this meadow, which is the campgrounds, and then there's like this little island here, but this is the famous where warm water's halt, right? But so I thought when I got there, I would find it in this meadow. But when I did these 2 pull-offs, and then I finally did this pull-off, I was like, holy cow, there it is. And I was literally standing right there. I have a picture of it somewhere, but it's pointless at this point. He's definitely in this meadow somewhere. And again, he is south and east of this, meaning that he is looking back northwest toward here. And he is in that photo, he is chopped off. He's chopped off this so you can't see exactly what he's looking back at. But so I knew for myself that wherever in my soul, wherever the treasure is, had to be between those 2 points. So it's like either he's starting to point here, which it could, because as surge is clear and bright, so basically he's either starting where warm water's halt and ending and sort of going to 9 Mile Hole, and then you're backtracking, or in my opinion, I actually think it's this way, but in either way, he's saying that, in my opinion, he's saying that, hey, I'm standing here, and 9 Mile Hole is here, and I'm giving you the 2 pictures between where the treasure is, right? So, so that's how I started. Well, like, okay, maybe this is definitely the area, right? And then I was thinking, okay, well, maybe it's, he's foot of 3, obviously her foot of 3. Now, realize that in mountain talk, when they call her is often, mountains are often referred to, especially hills, are referred to in the feminine. And so I was like, okay, well then, there's clearly mountains here. But it wasn't until I started viewing on, so I want to also go back to, so another thing that I believe that he gave us that was a clue was the safe numbers. I had those written down. But the 44 and the 110, to me, were like definitely longitude and latitude that he was at. So I went to the USGS map, and then, literally in this whole area, this is basically 44 and 110, so most people have figured that out by now. But I was like, okay, so definitely I believe in the right area, because I know he's standing somewhere in here, and I actually thought he was standing right at where warm water's halt. And then Forest Fenn's, 9 Mile Hole. I think he's actually standing in this meadow, and then of course 9 Mile Hole. So it's between this area. Just what I thought. And then so I thought, okay, well, cool. So now let's see how the poem works, right? So then I go to the poem, and it says, can you find what lives in time, flowing through each measured rhyme, wisdom waits in shadowed sight, for those who read these words just right. I think he's just setting this up. Again, wisdom waits in shadowed sight, I actually believe is a clue. But I just think this is a setup to get into the actual consecutiveness that he was talking about. So, as I'm going to go line by line, how I believe, and this is where I came to, as hope surges clear and bright. Now, some of these things I figured out post my trip. So, like, I went the first trip, and I'll show you here. Like, it was snow, and I had biked in. So on that first trip, I realized that how quiet it was as I was biking in, but it was so loud, and I was like, what is so loud? And you can see it here even on Google Earth. Like, you can see the water, because this is falling down as you're exiting Yellowstone. So that right there was 7 Mile Bridge. Here is West Yellowstone over here. You go into Montana. So I rode a bike from here, or actually rode a real bike. Other people had e-bikes. So I rode through here, real bike, all the way, and then once I got to like 7 Mile Bridge, which is this, okay, I realized that noise that I was hearing was actually the river. It was very, very, very loud, especially when you're just out there by yourself. But as hope surges clear and bright, so like it's, obviously the river is surging, transitions, walk near water, silent flight. So again, when you get to this straightaway right here, the water gets really quiet. super quiet. I've shown in a couple of my videos how quiet it gets. Okay, so it's super quiet. And then so walk near water, silent flight. So the next point is round the bend, past the hole. So let's go over here. So I believe that it was 9 Mile Hole. Here's Finn's Rock. Okay, and then round the bend. This is a hard 90-degree bend. Round the bend, past the hole. I wait for you to cast your pole. Now then, when I first came out, I thought I was going to come to this pull-off. Okay? Again, I want to show you guys, that rock photo is right here. So I'm going to put that on screen here. That formation is right here in that pull-off. This is 9 Mile Hole. There's Finn's Rock. This is 9 Mile Hole. Okay? And that's where he gets out in Netflix. Like you can see it. He gets out on Netflix right there. And here's that rock. Like, you know, if it's not the same rock, you let me know. But you're not going to be able to see that rock from Google Earth or anything. You have to be on the ground to see it. Excuse me. So, like, yeah. So that to me was like, okay, he literally told us he's there in Netflix on the last episode and the 2 minutes that he goes in. What's even more interesting is the photo that he is this green screening himself on looks a lot like some of this forest that you're going to run into when you're out here. But again, you have to be here in order to see it. Like you can't just like try to figure out where it's at because you're not going to know unless you're actually physically on the ground. So again, that rock is right here. Okay, for certain, without a doubt, and without a doubt. In that photo, he is standing in this meadow, and without a doubt, the photo of the treasure is sitting here at Finn's Rock. Okay? So, with all that said, I knew that this is the hole, or at least in my solve. The hole, to me, is 9 Mile Hole. I wait for you to cast your pole. So, getting back to it. So, round the bend, past the hole, I wait for you to cast your pole. In Ursa East, okay, in Ursa East is realm awaits. So, to answer your question, Brian, in Ursa East, in my opinion, was you go east, and we're looking for the Little Dipper that is a northern star, okay? So, the northern star always stays there. It's always present. And that's important because that northern star is how you're going to figure out what he means by the very next line. His bride stands guard at ancient gates. Her foot of 3 at 20 degree. Okay? So you need the northern star because you're going to have to, and then again, a part of like looking through this is going to USGS maps and looking at the topography to find out exactly what's happening. So then when I turned on the topography, I was like, holy cow, like this is literally a foot of 3, right? And in geology, this formation is known as a talus. There's a sign that's right there. I'll pop it up here. And what I found interesting, I do pay for the bougie ChatGPT, so it's kind of cool. The word talus has several meanings depending on context. In the anatomy, the talus is a bone in the ankle situated between the tibia and fibula, above and the calcaneus, the heel bone, below. It plays a critical role in what? Foot movement. But also in geology, talus refers to a slope or accumulation of rocks and debris of the base of a cliff, a mountain, or a slope. This debris accumulates due to a process like weathering, erosion, and gravitational falling of the rocks. So, I found this to be very, very interesting. It plays a critical role in our foot movement. And it just so happens that it is a true foot of 3. 1, 2, 3. So, like there's a little bit of heel, but that's not actually in this formation. This formation is together, right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I was like, oh wow, that is actually a foot of 3. And then I popped up in my AutoCAD and I drew a line straight north and south, which I believe that in Ursa East is his realm, and I believe that talking about this mountain, because again, I will say that I believe that this is a clue. Wisdom waits in shadowed sight. there is always a shadow right here. Always. Always a shadow. I've been there every time of day. There's a shadow of some kind right here on this mountain. And again, the reason why he's using his realm of weights and her is because they stand together like a bride and groom on a cake. When you're there, you can see it. And at the end of this video, I'll play a little 4-minute clip that I'm standing there where I believe you're supposed to cross. And I kind of go through from that point on what you should do, in my opinion, with regard to this saw, right? So her foot of 3 at 20 degree, again, I showed you that. Return her face to find the place. Double arcs on granite bold where the secrets of the past still hold. So to me, this is the clue, okay? So then I was like, okay, well, this is definitely the foot of 3. And then as I'm looking, I'm like, holy cow, there's literally 2 arcs right here. Literally 2 arcs. So, as you spin it around here, you can see it. It looks like a McDonald's sign. I mean, from Google Earth. Now, when I got there, the arcs themselves they stand more upright. So there's like, when you're physically on the ground here, they're actually like near, they make like a monument almost, like, because this actually kind of goes straight up, right? They weren't as discolored in real life as they are so much here on Google Earth, where you can really tell. But I got to thinking about that. A big reason why they're probably not at this very moment was because the snow had just melted, right? And so all that porous rock had absorbed the water, like, it'd been under snow for all this time. And so I'm actually thinking that as more time goes on, because what's crazy is down here at a lower elevation, I was actually just right here. I was there. And this discoloration, which is very much like this coloration, right? These two, see that has a discoloration there? I stood there, and that is definitely very discolored. But this is at a much lower elevation. This is like, a couple hundred feet, maybe even 300 feet lower than this, right? And so now, as I come home, I realized, like, actually, when these dry out over the summer, they're going to be much more prominent, because those 2 colors are pretty daggone close to the same, and it looked very yellow like that in real life, okay? Now, obviously, this Google Earth image was taken sometime, when there was no snow present. So I believe that this photo is probably taken sometime in the summer when they took it, and I believe that if I go back later, after the snow is definitely all melted and dried off, because you can see in the other video, I run into some snow even here. There's still some patches of snow right here as I made my way through this very treacherous rocks because I had lost my bear spray, and I had run into some bear scat like somewhere in here, and I was like, man. And then I also found over here, I got a picture of it, a dead, there's a bear skull over here somewhere, so kind of cool. But I was like, no, I'm definitely not going to go back this way through the wood. I'm just going to have to make my way where I know there's no bears, because I'd come this way multiple times, and there's really no food for a bear over here. If anything, a mountain lion. But the time of day that I was there, they would be resting. They're not going to be trying to eat a Chad bird. But going back to the double arcs on granite bowl, these two, they weren't as prominent as I wanted. But the more I thought about it, there's a reason. It's because the snow had literally just melted, and so they didn't have the time to dry out the rocks, if you will. So I am kind of looking forward to going back to see, if even if like the treasure's found or whatever, and Justin gives us all, I still kind of want to go back and see, like, hey, are those actually that prominent in real life whenever the snow is dry? Because you can see they're very prominent. So going back to the saw, I thought that this was, double arcs on granite bold, where the secrets of the past still hold. So I think it's hidden in there. Beyond the reach of time's swift race, wonder guards this sacred space. So the sacred part was because in his book, in Justin's book, so in his book, there's only one place that he calls sacred, right? And then it says, summer of 2013 rose in my memory. How could 5 years have slipped away so quickly? This wasn't just another pin on a map. This was sacred ground for both of us. There's only one place that he calls sacred, Every fisherman carries a mental map marked with cigarette waters, places where the mundane world dissolves at the riverbank, leaving only the eternal triangle of river, fish, and friendship. So there's only one place that he refers to as cigarette in his book, and that is the 9 Mile Hole area. Objectively dissolved when it came to 9 Mile Hole, Brandon's voice carried echoes of the earlier days, and my heart answered in kind. Man, bless your heart, buddy. But, yeah, so sacred ground for us both, right? So, wonder guards this sacred space. So, the wonder, in my opinion, is literally, when you're just there, it's just magical. I mean, it's just one of those things. But shadow, wisdom waits in shadowed sight. So, and then the last stanza is like, truth rests not in clever minds, not in tangled twisted finds, like a river steady flow. What you seek, you already know. So, in my opinion, what he's meaning by what you seek, you already know, is because him and Brandon had tromped themselves all around this area of Yellowstone. Right? So they really believed, they figured out, where Warm Waters Halt was here, and they tromped all over this place, trying to find Finn's treasure that was supposedly in here somewhere. Okay? There's Finn's Rock. It's over here somewhere, supposedly. I don't know. I didn't go look where they said it was because, again, I was trying to get myself across the Madison multiple times, and I was trying to get up in here. So my first journey, I was trying to climb this hill, and it was just too much snow. I mean, man, the snow right here was probably, not even kidding, 36, maybe even 50 inches deep, like up here, because it just drifted. But, there you go, Brian. That's the answer. To me, this is the full solve, okay? Can you find what lives in time, flowing through each measure of rhyme? Wisdom waits in shadowed sight for those who read these words just right. Okay? As hope surges clear and bright, that's entering because the Madison is surging and it's clear and bright. Walk near water's silent flight. So again, the river gets real silent here. Round the bend, past the hole. I believe that the hole is 9 Mile Hole. Round the bend, there's a huge bend right here. I wait for you to cast your pole. Right here, there is a fish plaque that says you fish here, which you can fish right here, right? It literally has a fish plaque right there. Maybe, let's see here, yeah. So I'm going to drop the little man right here. And you can see, let's come up the road here just a smidge. And right there, there's literally a fish plaque. It says you can fish, right? Mount Haynes Overlook, right? That's where I actually think you come. And then as you come, you can't see it very well on this one. I should have taken a picture of it. But, yeah, so you can kind of see the fish in the little hook. So, and obviously it's handicap accessible. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, so you come down in here, and as you can see, even from Google Earth, there he is, casting a shadow, and there she is. And I'll show that video here in a second. But, as hope surges clear and bright, so you fall in the Madison, because it's loud, walk near water silent flight to where it gets silent. Round a bend past the hole, so round a bend past 9 Mile Hole. I wait for you to cast your pole. Literally, I think it's 2 pull-offs down where you get out. Okay, now I've been there. I wait for you to cast your pole. I think is a double entendre to trekking pole, right? But also fishing pole. In Ursa East is Realm Awaits. I believe that this is a reference to the Little Dipper and using the Northern Star to know that you need to be true north and south in order to figure out what he means by foot of 3 at 20 degree. Okay? Okay? In Ursa East is Realm Awaits. His bride stands guard at ancient gates. Okay? There's literally a gate right here. The main gate, that's where the road is at, is actually the tightest point that I could find in all of Yellowstone. I looked all through between mountainous places, and this is actually the tightest point that I can find. There's only like 150 feet, maybe 200 feet between here, between her and this edge of this mountain. Okay? But I believe you have to use the North Star, which is in Ursa East, the Little Dipper. Okay? His realm awaits, his bride stands guard at ancient gates. I just showed you that. Her foot of 3 at 20 degree. And that's why I believe you have to use the Northern Star. I'll show you here again. Okay? So that you can figure out the 20 degree, because anything could be at 20 degree. Any 3-footed thing, like the Three Brothers here, Three Brothers Mountain, but they're not at 20 degree, right? But this foot of 3 is at 20 degree from true north, right? Return her face to find a place. So, going back here, if you come to her face, which is right here, return her face, turn around once you get here. Double arcs on granite bold, then it goes to the next one. Double arcs on granite bold where the secrets of the past still hold. So, underneath this deadfall here, I'm a little upset with myself because I didn't really search the deadfall. I had realized somewhere right here, I cut this out, but I realized that I had lost my bear spray, and so I was very, I got a little panicky, to be honest with you. I don't want to be out there with no bear spray because, you use bear spray for, even cougars, they could, or mountain lions that could, come charging at you. So I was like, holy crap, I'm going to have, and then I realized I'm going to have to come down through this, and I knew by being right here and looking back up how technical it was going to be, and I was like, oh man, I didn't know how long this was going to take me. I literally thought this was going to take me a few hours, potentially. It ended up only being about 35, maybe 40 minutes of a hike, but I just didn't know, and so I kind of panicked, and so I didn't even really get a look in here, to be honest, just looking back with the GoPro. So going back to the point here, beyond the reach of time swift race, one regards this sacred space. So, nothing, to me, another clue there is beyond the reach of time swift race, one regards this sacred space. Nobody's getting up here unless they want to. This is not a trail that people are going to go on. Clearly you can get there because I got there, right? But to me, it makes the most sense, it's in here somewhere because you're not going to have any luck when snow's on the ground, that's for sure. And then number two, there's ample deadfall, and I believe that Justin has said, it's between a rock and a hard place. So clearly, everything on the floor here is rock, is granite rock, volcanic granite, that it was drugged here by a glacier. And obviously the hard place is, all the deadfall. So, I definitely want to go back if I can. Nobody, if somebody uses this and finds it, great, that's awesome. But if it's not found, I want to go back and do a grid search. But the reason why I really didn't grid search was because, again, I kind of panicked not having my bear spray. And, to me, that's the most crucial thing out there in the wilderness, and knowing how to use it and being prepared. I can't stress that enough. You need to be prepared. There you go, Brian. Yeah, so there you go, Brian of Tarth. That's that, and then I'll leave this little video, of me standing there at that pull-up. So hopefully that helps. All right, right here, I think is where you cross. There's a buffalo over there right now, but the buffalo definitely migrate away from here as spring moves on. You can see in the Madison it's pretty shallow, probably typically. But with the spring runoff, it's pretty deep. It's not deep. It's like hip, a little over hip height, but yeah. But this through there, through those woods, you can get to the dirt mound. There's a man-made object back there. Definitely a man-made object back there. You can see it from Google Earth. It's square. And so here you go. Just so you can kind of see. So here he is. And here she is. That's her foot of 3. I don't know if you can tell that. So there's the 1, 2, 3. And then we're trying to get up in there. Just right over where those trees are. I don't want to go over there right now. Well, obviously because the water. I mean, I've crossed the Madison now a few times, even probably some deeper areas. But where's one buffalo, there's probably many. So bride, groom, ancient gate, super easy. And literally over that hill, again, you can see it from Google Earth, there's 2 double arcs on granite bold, and that formation was made by a glacier, which makes it ancient. So, yep, right there is the gate. That is where she's standing guard. It's actually the smallest choke point in all of Yellowstone. So,